Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who product review. In today's review I'm going to be taking a look at the latest design of sonic screwdriver used by the 15th Doctor, this time the Deluxe metallic plated edition, which is available exclusively via the Charcter Options website for £39.99. There is also a standard version available featuring less lights and sound effects as well as a different paint finish, but is the collector's version worth buying? Delving right in there with the packaging, you know what, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, which I think is probably a compliment. There's definitely one in there somewhere. Much like the 14th Doctor sonic screwdriver, it does come shipped in this corrugated box. There's the little character logo leaping with joy because he's just robbed me of 40 quid. This is a rather snug fit and it does a good job of shielding the entirety of the packaging. For those who got the 14th Doctor sonic screwdriver, this packaging is basically a revised version of that. Thankfully, due to the rather bizarre shape of this sonic screwdriver, it is much better protected. 14th Doctor sonic screwdriver basically wasn't protected at all, it was open to the elements, so at least this new one has something. And that something is a giant plastic shell which wraps the entirety of the sonic prop. Visually they've done a great job because you basically can't tell that it's there, but it is protecting the product. And on the matter of if it can be removed from the packaging and then put back in again, I guess we'll find out in a bit. Hello, future me checking in. I reckon it's doable, although it is a little bit fiddly. Bonus points for the little guide behind the Sonic, which reveals a bit about the features and the sounds. I quite like that. So at the very top we have the BBC and Doctor Who logos, standing out rather considerably on that lovely white background. At the top, warning, choking hazard, don't try eat it, I know it's tempting. And the lights as well, don't shine those in your eyes, it's painful. It states that this is the 15th Doctor's sonic screwdriver. Apparently it's multifunctional as well, so God knows what that means. I guess we'll find out in a bit. Below this, we have a lovely TARDIS graphic. The TARDIS does stand out quite a lot actually with that pink and purple background. At the bottom we have the title card reminding you what you've just spent your money on. We have a little picture of what appears to be the actual prop, and off to the opposite side we have a silver box out which reveals that this is the Deluxe edition. Or as how my dyslexic brain wants to call it, the Deluxe edition. Although to be fair, we can't rule out the Deluxe dog might have been the one that slapped on the crumb bits of paint. Turning over to the side, again we just have the white background, the Doctor Who logo. To be honest, this does look rather smart. The logo is also repeated at the top, and towards the bottom we have some usual company information. Flipping around now to the back of the box, to be honest this is a little bit cluttered. We have all of your usual company information at the bottom. Highlight of course being the long-awaited return of the official Doctor Who product sticker, which was used in the mid-2000s. But to cut down on additional materials, they have blended in the instructions into the back of the box. There's a little bit of information about the 15th Doctor, imagery of the product itself, surrounded by some features bubbles. Again, it repeats that this is the Deluxe edition, and we have the Doctor Who logo off to the opposite side. I do really like the purple and the pink actually, I think it works really well, it stands out on the shelf. Also really looking forward to seeing it being used with the upcoming 15th Doctor and Ruby action figures. It makes for a really nice refreshing change, to be honest. The shape of the sonic screwdriver overall really benefits the packaging because I do not want to be buying a product of £20+ that is completely exposed with zero protection like the 14th Doctor Sonic. Here is the 15th Doctor's sonic screwdriver out of the box, and it's a very weird design. Probably the most unusual design yet. I want to avoid saying it doesn't look like a screwdriver because it's an alien device, and let's face it, none of the Sonics really look like an actual screwdriver. This is one of the most technical sonic screwdrivers to ever be recreated by Charcter Options, and I think that they've done a great job of doing that, but I think the design itself does look rather cheap. Just to make this Sonic an even weirder shape, it also does that, so it kind of looks like a fish, and then you can rotate it around, and to really boggle the mind, you can move that way as well. We've came far from the pen light, haven't we? I was always quite intrigued by this toy when it was announced because we don't really see this Sonic much on screen, so I was hoping the toy would inform my opinion of it a bit. In conclusion, it's just a bit weird, isn't it? It kind of reminds me of when they tried to make things look futuristic in the early 2000s and it didn't work. Whilst I do like the colour scheme, I also think it does look rather tacky at the same time, and it exaggerates the fact that this is made of plastic. Charcter have done what they can within the confines of this ultimately being a children's toy, despite it being rather expensive. I would be intrigued to see what the premium end of the market, the likes of Rubbertoe, will do with this prop, because I think even they will struggle, to be honest, in not making this Sonic look plasticky. Let's start off slap bang in the middle of the Sonic, where we have this golden dial. It's an eye-catching design and certainly grabs your attention. So the circular panel is a lovely shiny metallic gold which is used throughout the entirety of the Sonic's body, and then wrapping around the circumference we have a series of Gallifreyan symbols. These are engraved into the Sonic itself, each circular design varying slightly, nicely representing the uniqueness of Gallifreyan typography. Now, due to them being the same gold to the rest of this circular section, they are lost a little bit. They don't stand out as much as I think they could have. A subtle darkened wash to emphasise the various circles, I think that this would have really elevated the sculpt. So let's progress further up the Sonic now to the main top section. Compared to the two sections, of course, this one is slightly bigger. It does have a very curved dome appearance. Overall, it's very, very unusual. It's a very odd design. Dividing up the two silver panels, we have this lovely stripe of blue. Much like the gold and the silver, this blue is scattered throughout the entirety of the Sonic's body. It has this lovely sheen to it. Having only seen pictures of the standard version, I want to say that this one pops more. It has more vibrancy to it because of this sheen throughout. So on one side, we have this curved silver panel with a number of grooves within it. Due to this being the deluxe edition, the silver is much more shiny. It's a chrome metallic-y finish. Grooves themselves don't actually do anything, although it is a nice texture. It is an incredibly tactile prop. Another curved silver panel is also present at the opposite side, although this time there's no additional texturing on this. It really helps divide up the various panels and colours is this engraved groove design. This makes the divide between the colour much sharper and helps the colour itself keep within the lines. Whilst yes, the whole of this Sonic does look much shinier than its standard counterpart, I particularly think this circular middle section stands out the most. Maybe because there's not that much going on, so it really emphasises how nice this shiny finish is. Further grooves and panels, the alignment of 3 buttons off to the side, and one standalone button in the middle. The rotating central section is also gold, although in a rather satisfying way from the outside, it's a blue. And this lines up really neatly, given that it's a toy and not the real prop. Underside of the top section is basically a minefield of buttons and things that look like buttons but aren't. Silver panelling continues from the other side. That's not a button, even though it looks like one, it's probably hiding a screw. Have more golden circles in the middle. This one is indeed a button. In fact, it's a special feature where you can take someone's eye out. More on that in a moment. This slightly longer section is also a button, and this button does this. Oh, it's like a Christmas light switch on. There's a further golden orb in the centre. Due to the two lights having themselves a silver base, they slot in well with the rest of the Sonic. The clear plastic doesn't really stand out, and I love those golden edges around the side, consistent with the rest of the prop. And of course we have that lovely blue design once again, nicely dividing up the silver panels. This is all block colour. It might have been nice to have a few wear and tear bits on there just to make it a bit more realistic. But then again, I also think that that's a bit unfair of me because the design doesn't really help. It's a very plasticky looking sonic screwdriver. The actual prop looks a bit like a toy. So next up we have this thing. Oh, isn't that clever? Of course, Ncuti uses this in Rogue. It's some form of telescope / binocular. The frustrating thing is I want to take a look at this isolated from the Sonic, but every time you do it doesn't shut up. Again, this is another moment that I would really love a kill switch. And I know it's at this moment that I realised I didn't actually know where the batteries were. So we're about to rectify that because this thing's doing my head in. Put up with the noise for a moment and pull this little panel upwards. There is indeed a little tab to get your nail under. This panel is cleverly designed to hide the battery compartment, so you can slide it out, which is probably one of the best battery compartment disguises that I've seen on any Charcter Options Doctor Who product. It's excellent and doesn't detract from the visual appearance of the product, so massive thumbs up for that. The lens itself is a clear piece of plastic which has been sprayed silver. The way that it slides into the shape of the horse on its screwdriver is rather satisfying, complete with a small golden orb there holding it in place at the bottom. Honest, I imagine this is probably one of the sections which really benefits from this being the deluxe version due to how much the colour pops, the shiny silver, the gold, it really works. The lens itself is rather neat, a clear plastic with this lovely golden pattern. If you look closely, this does actually bevel inwards, so it does sort of work as a lens. You can hold it up to things and use it somewhat as a binocular, although the view is mostly obscured. The shape of this Sonic was rather unusual as it is, let alone having weird lenses sticking out of it, but underneath we do have this lovely design. Black isn't really seen throughout the rest of this Sonic, so this really stands out. The way this lovely golden circular pattern shimmers with the various lines and circles does also somewhat extend down the side. I do love this. I think it works really well. As a sonic screwdriver, that's a different conversation. It's just a very odd, alien-looking device. So moving back onto the emitter, that does feel really weird calling it the emitter, but we'll run with it. And this is framed with some silver panelling and a clear section in the centre, but there is of course also more to it. as we have another probe lens thing. Much like the other lens section, this appears to be a clear section of plastic which has been sprayed silver around the edges. It is a rather bulky thing that also completely changes the silhouette of the Sonic overall. The silver holster is rather neat, complete even with a golden rim around the side, again rather sharp paint application on this, complemented with this light blue waveform pattern around the circumference. Don't ask me what its purpose is, I've got no bloody idea. And again, this lens does work, so you can put anything in front of it. That's weird, I'm sure something was there a minute ago. Put the lens back into the central body of the Sonic, you simply push it inwards, and I've got to say, it is well made, although I do not think this will stand much wear and tear from a younger fan. Finishing off the top half of the Sonic, we have a golden plate section. I suppose this can also act as a nice grip. And unlike the rest of this section, it does have a textured, almost metal-like design. Of course, the lower section is smaller to the rest of the Sonic. As per the top, I suppose the combination of the metallic blue and gold is quite the clash. Now, the blue does also extend around to the sides here. Again, the curve on this section is not exactly helping the fact it does look like a Sky remote. I have attempted to make it look like various curved panels there with this little seam. This does also somewhat continue around to the edges. Rather unusually shaped golden panel, this has a return to the nice textured design. Usually, of course, this textured section is nice, it separates it from the rest of the device. Because of this too, it is very tactile. Much like the other panels, a little bit of a black wash on this just to emphasise the textures would have been appreciated. There is also this lovely smooth golden outline running around the entire circumference. I suppose you could argue this emphasises just how unusual the shape of this section actually is. There is a splash of gold at the bottom as well with this egg-shaped section. Although this time it's smooth, there's no additional texturing, but as for the opposite side, this does mix things up a bit with a splash of silver. In the panelling effect, the way this connects to the blue is rather neat. Although the edge does lose its sharpness a little bit off to the side here where it does smudge with the blue. This is probably because the sculpted groove also ends there as well, rather bizarrely. This does mean when folded back together, it creates a little bit of a gap. I wouldn't say it's too noticeable though. Finishing off the lower back panel, we have the small light. Well, I say light, it's actually a clear piece of plastic. There's 3 circular orbs in the centre, varying in size. These can be seen all the way across to the opposite side as well. There is also this serrated edge style design in there too. But again, despite this looking like a light, when you actually click the lights on, this doesn't light up. And that's because there is no bulb present, which is kind of essential for a light. In fact, this section is entirely see-through. To be honest, I think it fits in well. It definitely looks the part, and I don't mind that it doesn't light up. There's already enough lights going on. Flipping this section around, it's just more of the same, really. Of course, the surface of the under section is much flatter compared to the opposite side. The silver flick on one side continues. 2 does the golden egg thing. Looks a little bit like a button. It isn't. There are 2 clear LEDs in the centre, though. Obviously, these light up, so that's riveting. I do love how well the lights are blended in with the rest of the prop. Once you have unfolded this Sonic or pressed any of the buttons, it does wake up the crystal. This has a permanent purple pulse. That's quite the alliteration, wasn't it? This can be a little bit difficult to see in some lights, although it's nice. It's like a little purple fire flickering away. You have a silver base with lines within it, the crystal in the centre. It does rather remind me of those medallions that you'd get in Poundland in the early 2000s that were meant to be expensive looking jewels. And that's not a critique, it's a nice small detail, it works well with the rest of the components. The whole bottom half of the Sonic does sway a little bit from side to side, which feels a bit unusual. Fortunately, that does mean that this section goes underneath this bit, and that has caused a little bit of damage already. You can see slight scratch marks from the golden circle where it does connect with the other section of plastic. I did have a feeling that this would be an issue, particularly with this metallic plated or chrome plated edition, whatever you want to call it. Once I have completed this review, I am probably going to refrain from rotating the Sonic quite regularly. That is a problem really for a product with a £40 price tag. You don't expect damage to incur from doing the very thing that it is advertised to do. But I would be interested to know if you have the standard edition, do you also have this problem? Because I've got a feeling it might be the chrome-plated finish on this which exaggerates the issue. I know some fans had similar concerns with the 14th Doctor Sonic. Maybe there's an argument to say that this is the collector's version for the older audience, hence the higher price tag, and therefore they're less likely to play with this item as if it's a toy. Therefore, it's also less likely to need to withstand the roughs and tumbles of a child playing with it. Although probably most older fans want to play with it anyway, so I see what Charcter are doing. Why not buy both? Which, I won't be doing that. Much like the 14th Doctor Sonic, I got the chrome one, that's enough for me, for now. Maybe that'll change in the future, perhaps when it's reduced, Who knows? Well, now let's take a look at the various lights and sounds that the 15th Doctor sonic screwdriver has. Due to it being the deluxe version, there are a few more than the standard. By pressing the main power button, this activates the purple jewel, if it's not already activated through opening the sonic, that is. When pressed, a clicking sound is made, followed by the rather regular sonic whirring sound. The flat side main lights glow a light blue, same with the smaller lower down LEDs and the larger emitter window at the top. The collection of 3 and 1 standalone lights on the opposite side also glow a light blue. By clicking the main central button twice, a more technical, almost fluctuating whirring sound is made. There is also a slight flicker of interference within the lights. And all of the usual lights once again shine a light blue. On 3 clicks, a weird sort of concoction of multiple sonic screwdriver sound effects are made, some old and some new, all thrown together. It's as if the sonic screwdriver is working something out. This sound does last a little bit longer. And when your finger is removed from the switch, a beeping sound is made, the purple jewel flashes. It's as if the sonic has came up with an answer to the thing that it was solving. By clicking the smaller circular button, the emitter extends as covered earlier. This is also followed by a short sound, which really adds to the play value of the product. It feels like an alien piece of tech. An additional sound is also made when the lens is manually pressed back into the sonic screwdriver housing. I do think that this noise just adds an element of realism to the prop, especially when you close this section as well. It just makes it feel a bit less plasticky. And with the lens opening and closing sound effect, it just makes the whole thing feel a bit more real. Movement sound effects do also apply to rotating the sonic around as well. Apparently the standard version of this sonic doesn't have those movement features, and to be honest I imagine it would fall rather flat without them. And now for the scanner. Pulling this outwards creates a rather lovely sliding whooshing sound effect, followed by a constant buzzing heard earlier on within this review, which never shuts up, and it's rather loud. The lights also flash like some form of laser disco. How exciting. And this is also accompanied by a swoosh sound effect when the scanner is closed. So now for the secret sound effects, clicking the main button 15 times, no I'm not joking. Do bear with me, we'll get there eventually. So on the 15th click, open up the lens. It will then beep like a weird old Samsung phone. Bizarrely at this point the sonic is pretty much dead, it acts as a little bit of a kill switch, no lights and sounds. So close the lens. Lens does the closing sound effect. Now the jewel lower down glows and pulsates a light green. Oh, it's a Beetlejuice mode it seems. So now when you click the main button, the LEDs flash a rather vibrant red, which makes it look incredibly evil, and we hear the familiar deadly sound of the laser screwdriver. Again, the main lights, the emitter light, and the front smaller lights all glow a vibrant red. On camera the lights do look rather orange, I promise you they are a vibrant red. On clicking this button twice, this time the lights pulsate a lovely orange and they flash like some form of 80s party bus. This also includes the jewel lower down, glowing and fluctuating a light green. And at this point, a final laser screwdriver whirring sound effect can be heard. I did wonder when I purchased this sonic screwdriver from Charcter Options website if having it in person would make me appreciate the design more, and in short I don't. I think it's rather bizarre, I think it's a very unique design, but when it comes to calling it a sonic screwdriver, I simply can't, to be honest. I think it is too different from what we know, and because of that, I struggle to link the term sonic screwdriver to it. I don't have the standard one within my collection, but what I can say is the deluxe version does definitely have a number of selling points. Visually, I think the sheen, the metallic finish is really nice. I think that it makes the prop overall look less plasticky than the standard version will. If you are into your lights and sound effects, this prop also has more selling points. I love the various different colours within the LEDs, but I particularly like the swishing effect for the various lenses. I think that this really brings the prop alive. And because of that, it's something unique. Again, I like it. I like how challenging this design is, but when it comes to calling it a sonic, I can't. As for which one you should purchase, it's completely up to personal preference. If you are a big fan of sonic screwdrivers, then you're probably going to buy both, let's be honest. If you just want one for the shelf to say that you've got one, then go for the standard edition. But if you do want to fork out more, then maybe go for this one, particularly if you do like lights and sound effects. If that's something that you have enjoyment from, then you're going to enjoy the deluxe version a lot more. It is quite pricey, but I think ultimately the biggest critique that I have about this product is the design of the prop itself. itself. Charcter have done an excellent job of recreating it within toy form, but it is a toy at the end of the day, and the design, accompanied with what it's actually made from, does make it look rather plasticky and just odd. But also, if you're planning on giving this toy to a younger Doctor Who fan, then probably go for the standard one, because the chrome finish, particularly with that rotating lower half and the scratches, but also the rather delicate feel of those lenses, I don't think they will last long in the hands of a child, but it's still a great fun product, and a very bizarre sonic screwdriver. But it has been very fun to review, I will give it that.